Hi, I'm Andrew Wallace. Welcome to the We've Got a Problem podcast, where each week we explore inspiring stories of struggle, success, and solutions to prevalent problems and how our guests have turned a problem into an opportunity. This week, I'm joined by Karey Spranzi, who's a coach running Carry On Coaching, helping people who've gone through some stuff to cultivate resilience and have more fun and move past all these things. Karey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. It's really lovely to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. We were talking before we got on about how much of a line drive this is for my show, how much we sync up on what we like to talk about. So I'm really glad to have you. I can't wait to see what we get into. So give me a little bit of history for our listeners. What's your background? How did you come to this kind of line of work?
Yeah. So as you said in the beginning, I help people who have been through some stuff, in quotations, turn those experience into their superpowers, basically. And I came to that because over my life, I have been through a lot of stuff. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay.
In a Mormon household. And then in my senior year of high school, got pregnant with my high school sweetheart and got married over Christmas break of my senior year, moved out of my parents' house into my apartment as a married woman, finished high school, walked in my cap and gown, and 5 days later had my son. Wow. And at the ripe old age of 18 years old. And, I remember being this rebellious kid and then, I don't know, maybe within that first year of being an 18-year-old wife and mom in my own apartment, going back to my parents crying, being like, oh, I'm sorry, I was such a jerk. This being an adult is hard. I don't like it, you know? It is. And my dad just sat there with the biggest smile on his face and was like, I have been waiting for this day for years. And you know what? Go ahead.
No, it's a typical, it's a different style of parenting than most people do. Most people are trying to keep their kids from doing this stuff. They're like, I'm just waiting for you to come to it. You'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah. I mean, they did their very best to prevent all of that from happening. But the more they sort of tried to prevent, the more rebellious I became. And, at the end, but it's funny because I currently live in Amsterdam, which we'll get to, but I happen to be, when we're recording this, in Salt Lake City visiting family. And now my son is grown. He has a son, so I'm a grandma. I have a 3-year-old grandson with a second one on the way. And we were at a barbecue last night, and my son and I were playing cornhole. We're next to each other, and we're listening to these teenage boys behind us talking. And one of them was complaining about getting up early. And my son says to them, oh, enjoy it while you can, because it only gets worse. I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning now. And I started laughing, and I looked at my son and I said, I've been waiting to hear this from you for so long.
But turnabout is fair play.
Yes, exactly. It's really funny how life kind of does that. As a kid, you think you know it all and your parents don't know shit about anything. Yeah. And then you get to be an adult and you're like, oh, you actually did know what you were talking about.
Yes. And yes, the big thing, I think there are periods, even as adults, where we go through times where we think we now have it figured out. Mm-hmm, and no matter what, every single time something happens to give you that little slap in the face, it's like, oh, that's right. No, I don't.
Totally.
And we're all just doing our best. That's kind
Absolutely.
of hopefully we're doing our best.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And, I think the universe or God or whatever happens after we die, we're going to go there and be like, I should have listened to the intuition, and I should have listened to those little promptings. And they're going to say, I've been waiting for you to say this your whole life. It's just, I think it's so true because, we kind of never really do have it figured out, which I think in a lot of ways is some of the things that I coach my clients on, because this idea that we have it all figured out, or that we should have it all figured out, and then life knocks us back a peg.
Yeah.
And then we turn that into this story of like unworthiness and self-doubt and what the hell am I doing? And who do you think you are? And it turns into fear. And then we stop being brave and trying new things and going after our life. And it just can be this downward spiral because we have this, somehow we have this idea that we're supposed to have it all figured out. And I don't think we are.
No. And but that's certainly a struggle for me because you look at some and on both sides, right? I mean, both parts. Like I think I should have to have it figured out, and I watch myself starting to back away from those things that in a sense matter because it kind of saps your confidence when you both think you're supposed to do this, and there's a big word there, supposed to.
Exactly.
And then not doing it, and you go, maybe I don't have the maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'm not the, maybe I am meant to just sit here and in my little room and do my.
Right. Go to my job that I don't love and, be in this relationship that's kind of a drag and do the things for all the people in my life that just wear me down. And I feel resentment and like I'm being taken advantage of. But yet, if I change any of these things, what do I have left?
Right.
Who am I without them? What does it mean about me if people don't rely on me constantly? Do I have any value? And these are a lot of the things that we talk about with my clients and go through with the coaching, because those are the things that drive our decisions. And I think also too, like just having an awareness that it doesn't have to be that way, that there really aren't that many shoulds in life, and there aren't really that many supposed to's. I mean, you should be a kind person and you're supposed to be nice and treat each other with kindness and love and compassion. But beyond kind of those like minimal things.
I talked with a woman recently who will be, you can listen to the previous episode of the show, but she was working on helping people be more assertive without being rude or standoffish or aggressive. And so many people have this kind of false belief that if you're assertive, you must therefore be aggressive. Right. That they're mutually that they go along together. That being polite and being assertive are mutually exclusive. So, if I imagine there are a lot of kind of hang-ups or false beliefs or whatever that you guys have to work through to get people to start to accept the idea that their dreams aren't too big, that what they want to do is worth fighting for, and that they have the power or the strength or the whatever to move toward it. Right. I mean,
yeah, indeed. And, as you were saying that, it's like, I think sometimes we confuse, and there's a really great book out there, which forgive me, but I'm not going to be able to remember the exact title or the author, but that's what Google is for. You just type in random words and you can get it back. But it has to do with this concept of kindness, being kind versus being courteous. And being courteous sort of protects the other person's feelings per se, but isn't always the kind thing to do. Right. Sometimes the kind thing to do is to say, no, son, I am not going to come and bail you out in whatever way that looks like.
Right.
Because I have done that one too many times now. And if I continue to do that, while that may be the courteous thing to do for you, it's not the kind thing to do for you. The kind thing to do for you is to allow you to suffer the consequences of your actions in hopes that you learn and grow and change from that. But if I continue to swoop in, sure, that protects you. And that protects my heart too sometimes. Like I don't, it's never fun to watch the people that you love go through the consequences of their actions, whatever that may be, right? But rescuing them is not always the kind thing to do. And it's a challenging concept to kind of work around and test.
For sure. Especially for people pleasers and people who are,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, it's tough. And listen, you said at the beginning, that that's something that you recognize in yourself as well. I mean, I don't know if your previous guest said this, but I know for myself, it's so interesting to me that a lot of what my clients are going through tends to kind of be showing up in my life again. I mean, if you play an instrument, I don't think you might be very good at a piece of music, but no matter how good you are, Michael Jordan still misses shots, right? No matter how good you are, you still mess up the score every now and then. And even though I'm a coach working on resilience, life kicks my butt sometimes too.
Well, you get to have to practice what you preach.
Totally, totally, totally. I mean, I'm a coach and I have a coach, and I'll never not have one because I'm living life as a human as well. Right. And I'm not perfect, and I'm doing the best I can. And I need that guidance, that sort of 350-foot view who's cares about me and is there to do the kind thing for me, not the courteous thing for me. And just, help me see things that are in my blind spots at that moment. So,
I mean, I guess the big question is, how do we cultivate resilience for ourselves? How do we go from having been knocked down by some stuff,
yeah,
and actually, start to cultivate it? How do we get there?
Yeah, I think the first step really is to give yourself some grace and forgiveness for the feelings that you have. You must feel all the things. Mm-hmm. We often we only want to feel like the happy, good, fun stuff, but you can't separate them from the not happy and the fun stuff. And sometimes when we feel resentful and angry and sad and disappointed in ourselves or in others, those have been labeled as like bad feelings. And
right,
so
there's a judgment attached to it.
Totally.
And bad.
So, yeah, exactly. And so then we start to make those feelings and the fact that we're having them mean something about who we are, mm-hmm. that we're not kind, that we're not worthy, that we deserve that we're a bad person. And then that turns into shame, which then doesn't allow us to do the next small, tiny step to kind of climb back out of that hole, if you will, or turn the situation around or learn the lesson from it. Mm-hmm. So I think the very first step is to just recognize that those feelings are real and valid and necessary, and to be in them, and to, I guess, for lack of a better word, like sort of welcome them. Not welcome them in the sense that you go and you seek them.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't let them run the show.
Yeah,
that it's like, okay, you're here. Welcome to the.
Hi, I see you.
Yeah.
Okay, why are you here? What are you? I like to talk to my emotions sometimes, mm-hmm. like, oh, hi, anger, I see you. All right, why are you here? What's going on?
Right.
Why am I frustrated with this? Why am I angry with this? What's coming up? Now that's taken a practice, right? Yeah. So sometimes resilience is just like, you might be right in the thick of it right now. So maybe right now, and that situation isn't the one to take a look at, but it's not the first time you've been in a situation, right. Gone through something and a hard experience. So maybe look back 5, 10, 15 years at a time in your life when things felt really hard and things felt impossible. And what was going on? Who was involved? How were you feeling? What was your role in it? What do you think everyone else's role was in it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, getting some perspective as well is super helpful. It's easy to see how certain people get knocked down by certain experiences because they have no point of reference.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
That if somebody goes through some serious stuff and they can't do that at all, they can't go, well, what was another time this happened? Okay, this mm-hmm. is going to be okay because mm-hmm. I got through it. Mm-hmm. I figured it out. Oh, I now have extra information that I didn't have then because I've been through it before and I remember how I handled it and how I could have handled it better. And here's what I'm going to do. Right. I got it. I'm okay. I can move on.
Right.
But just especially for young people, and I don't want to get into an extensive conversation of it, but
right.
People who are going through some serious emotional stuff in high school, and their solution is to get a gun and become a mass shooter. They completely lack any frame of reference to have dealt with the feelings that they have. It's like their world is ending.
Yeah,
and so
definitely.
They've got to,
Yeah, for sure. And it takes practice, and it takes support, and even though I teach this stuff, like I said, life still knocks me down. And I think the challenge, the deal with resilience is I think there's this misconception that once you have resilience, you sort of always have it. And I think that's true, but that doesn't mean that bad things don't affect you. It just means that you're able to move through it and bounce back from it and come out the other side much faster.
Yes. I was going to say faster. It just speeds the recovery process.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you don't go through some,
And I think those bad situations, or those tricky, challenging situations, don't tend to take as big a chunks out of your armor each time, right? In the beginning, like these young kids that you're talking about, especially if they don't have very resilient people and parents around them, that whole thing about attaching the things in life that happen to us to your identity and who you are as a person and what your value is as a person, that those young kids, that's what happens there. And if we don't support, as humans, if we don't learn how to disconnect that cord between what happens in our life and who we are as a person, then that's when the pile of stuff that happens in life just keeps getting bigger, and you just get buried deeper and deeper and deeper under it. But if it's like staying on top of your laundry, right? If every week you do your laundry, then you never have a mountain.
Right. Yeah.
It takes 4 days, to get through or something. Right. But if you stay on top, you wash your dishes at the end of each night, you never have this so I think that's what the practice of resilience is. And that's what I do. And that's why I, for myself, will always have a coach. I need and want that support, that reminder to be like, hey, you know what, Karey, you've been through something like this before. How do you think this situation is similar to when you went through cancer, or similar to when you were going through your divorce, or similar to when you moved to the other side of the world, to a country where you don't speak the language and you didn't know anybody, and they count the sunshine in hours, not days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like, but so that's, we only slightly broached the subject of your history. And I know there's a lot more to it that it's more than a young teenage pregnancy and an early slap in the face, realizing how hard adulting is.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff that you've been through would knock anybody on their butt for a while, perhaps permanently. And you've continued to bounce back and are able to kind of laugh at it and enjoy it. And I think, as we kind of talked about before we got on, that part of the thing is life is so absurd sometimes. The only thing you can do is laugh, but a lot of people don't. Yeah. What would you say? I mean, in a sense, were you early on as resilient, able to bounce back, laugh at it, take a kind of curious point of view at it, or did you really, have some long hard times when, divorce, cancer, things like that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is both, right? So, for any of us listening to this who have kids, I think you're always surprised that they arrive already with a lot of their personality intact. You're 3 days old, and yet I can already sense this personality that you have. Where did this come from? Right. So there's a bit of this nature versus nurture, or nature and nurture. Right. So I think, just, if I'm honest, I do think that I am a glass half full kind of person just by nature.
Okay.
Right. So I do think that there is a little bit of that, which, is just how I was made. But then there's the nurture part of it. My parents are young. My parents were 19 years old when they had me, and I'm the oldest. And my father is just one of these guys that just makes a song up for everything and makes the dumbest dad jokes, which I absolutely love. And we grew up like camping. We didn't have a ton of money. My parents, like I said, were 19 when I was born. I'm 46. My youngest sister in 10 days is going to turn 42, and there are 4 of us.
Oh, wow. Okay. Just
all right. So it's just like
right,
boom, boom,
one
boom.
on top of another. Yeah.
Yeah. And when, my dad, and so like, just to give you a sense of like the environment that I grew up, my dad's like, well, we couldn't afford cable. And I'm like, there's other things to do, So like, this is just kind of the family environment that I grew up with. And so we did a lot of camping. We spent a lot of time together. And my dad just is kind of one of these guys that is just happy to be alive.
Yeah.
So this is the environment that I grew up in, which I think, if you could say, I suppose, gave me a leg up on it. Right.
Yeah.
But with that said, my first divorce came before I was 21 years old, and I had a 3-year-old. And we talked at the beginning about like shoulds and supposed to. You're supposed to stay married forever. My parents are still married. This summer, they're going to celebrate 47 years married. They met when they were 14. It's just crazy. So I had this example. Plus, I was raised in the Mormon church, which the Mormon church, along with most religions, marriage is forever. The Mormons take it a step further and say eternity, which is a really long time.
Yes.
So, I was supposed to stay married forever. And here I am and I was supposed to go to college. Like I was being scouted by universities to go play softball and volleyball when I found out I was pregnant, and had to quit the teams and cancel all the scholarships and things that I was getting. So I was like, whoa, what the hell? This isn't how my life was supposed to be. And I was young. Up until that point, honestly, I had like very few problems. I thought they were huge, but looking back, they were like not huge at all. We didn't even have social media. So come on, I had an easy teenage, year growing up. I can't imagine what it's like for these kids now. And that kicked my butt, man. I didn't know how to deal with it. I spent all my time, I didn't know how to deal with all of the emotions. So the way I dealt with it was working out. So I just like ran all the time. And I'm one of these people that when I get like stressed and sad and all of that, I stop eating. So I was working out all the time. I wasn't eating. Oh, and I was barely 21. So guess what? I started drinking as well.
Right.
And I remember my dad at one point, he was just watching me destroy myself, basically. And he was like, he stopped me one day and he said, if you don't start eating and taking care of yourself, I will force feed you. I will sit on you and force feed you and lock you in your room. He was like, I've had it. I am not going to sit by and watch you destroy yourself. Right. So that kind of snapped me out of it a little bit. I got my first coach. Then I went to a couple of a girlfriend of mine at the time was going through something at the time was called impact training, but now it's called something else. And the name has escaped me, but it'll come to me. It was this week-long retreat thing. And because she was a graduate of it, she gave me a free weekend. So I went to this weekend and there was this guided meditation. Oh, I before I go into this story, it's worth mentioning that my ex-husband was now with my cousin who was a bridesmaid in our wedding.
Oh, great.
So they're living together and, they're doing the whole thing. And she actually at one point said to me, do you have any idea what a pain in the ass you are to our relationship? And I was like, well, do you have any idea what a pain in the ass you are to like my marriage? Like, how about that? You know, the divorce wasn't final. So this is what was happening. And I'm like 21, right?
With no toolkit to deal with this thing.
Zero toolkit. I mean, apart from my religious, which was pray. And I'm like, okay, not working for me. All right. So anyways, I'm at this retreat and there's a guided meditation. And I don't remember what the facilitator was saying, but I'm in my vision, in my meditation, what I see is me and Jesus laying on the greenest grass under the biggest tree you've ever seen. And we're just chatting. And I ask him, what is love? And he says, I can't tell you, I can only show you. And then I say, well, what is forgiveness? And he gives me the same answer. I can't tell you, I can only show you. And in that moment, my ex and my cousin come over the hill and sit down with us and they say, and we will help her learn.
Okay.
And I'm like a puddle on the floor. I'm sobbing. I just am like, oh my gosh. And at that moment, I like forgiveness. Like, I just was like, okay, this is happening to teach me forgiveness. And I am not going to waste one more second of my life being angry about that.
Boy, is that a powerful, first of all, moment. And secondly, sentiment to remind everybody of. It's like you are wasting time, wasting moments in hate, anger, and regret.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, I just wasn't going to hold on to that anymore. Now, with that said, it wasn't like I was all, hey, let's go, let's have a barbecue. Like, no, it was boundaries. I was just like, okay, like you're doing this thing that I had to set up boundaries around my life to protect myself. Right. But I didn't have to hold that poison in my heart and be upset and angry all the time. It didn't mean that we were best friends and that it made everything okay. It just meant that I could let it go and move on with my life.
Right. That at some point you kind of said to yourself, what they do doesn't really affect me.
Exactly.
And that has nothing to do with me. I mean, it stings. Yeah. It sucked when it happened past tense, but and I don't feel great about it, but I'm not going to hold on to it anymore because I got to move on. I'm moving forward.
And the other side of this, don't forget, I had like a 3-4-year-old son.
Yeah.
And we were divorced. So I thought, he's going to find another partner.
Right.
And God knows who that's going to be. I know this person. I've known her my whole life. I know the family she grew up in. I know her character. I know, like, if I'm going to send my son off on the weekends or the week or a holiday with his dad and he's going to have a partner, I mean, maybe this is the best way this could go in terms of that, right?
Right.
So I also was a little bit like, okay, I mean, it is what it is. So I'm going to see the positive, which is I know my son's going to be well taken care of. In fact, I almost feel more comfortable sending him off to his dad knowing she's there than if it was just him alone. Because, we got divorced for a reason. So like,
right.
It was a pretty profound experience at a really young age. And I think that sort of set me up to be like, there's always something to learn. There's always something to be found in the stuff that happens. It's hard to see when you're in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not saying to happy wash or discount what's going on, right? Life is hard and there are hard experiences. And when you get some distance from them, you can look back and say, actually, and sometimes in the moment, like that was kind of in the moment for me, but they're not always like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the combination question that I ask a lot of people and that goes along with this show, which is, in a sense, how can we turn from these kinds of moments and just have more fun?
Exactly.
And the whole point of life is to enjoy it in a way. I mean, it's like there's not a checklist for I've got to do this, 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 and this, and if I do those things, I will have succeeded and won life. Like I won the game. It's not like that. I mean, it's making the most of the moments that you have. So how do we? I mean, in a sense, how do we have more fun? How do we move from these things and just thrive instead of survive?
Yeah, it's such a good question, right? Because that checklist that you talked about, like society, our culture has drilled into us that there is a checklist. And if you do the checklist, you will be happy. And so many of us do the checklist and are left wanting.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, wait, but I did all these things. And so there must be something wrong with me, right? Like going back to this whole connecting, what happens in our lives to our worth and who we are as a person. How do we thrive in life instead of just survive? I mean, I think the biggest lesson that I've learned about this is that so often we don't talk about what's going on in our lives. We don't share the hard, crappy things that are going on because of this whole connection to our identity and our worth. And so we feel really alone and we feel really isolated, like we're the only ones going through this. I'm the only one this has happened to. And cancer taught me that is so not true.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I had stage 4 colon cancer, which meant I had a colostomy bag. Okay. And I was a sales rep for an architectural resin material. So my job was to go around to architects and designers and educate them about our product and help them use it in their designs. So here I am in an architecture firm that I have been visiting for 15 years. I know these people. We're standing in their materials library and I'm doing the whole dog and pony show about like, here's our new products and all of this kind of stuff. And I hadn't told anybody about what's going on with me. So nobody knew I had this colostomy bag. And even though I thought everyone could see it, nobody could. And I finished the presentation. There's like 15 designers standing around and there's like a break in the conversation. And I fart in my colostomy bag and it makes this enormous fart sound and it puffs my shirt up because with colostomy bags, you have no control, right. No warning, no nothing. So quiet, giant fart sound, my shirt puffs up. I am absolutely mortified. I look at them and I go, well, I guess that's my cue to leave. And then I just start laughing and I said, I am so sorry. I have a colostomy bag. I am battling stage 4 colon cancer right now. And one of the fun things about this is that no control and no warning.
Right.
And someone says, oh my God, well, at least you don't have to hold it all day. And somebody else says, well, my husband has one of those and it happens to him all the time. And somebody else says, I actually have one and it happens to me all the time. And it blew my
Yeah.
Because, for a lot of, I didn't know I knew this woman for 15 years. I didn't know she had one.
Right.
I didn't know anything about her husband. I certainly didn't think that any of these women that I looked up to that, they're in design, so they're all fashion and all of this are like squeezing their cheeks together all day because they don't want to let one go in the office. But like, they're all human, right? So we laughed and we cleaned it up. And then I got in the car and I cried and was like, oh, I can't believe that. I was so embarrassed. And then I wiped my tears and I was like, but it was okay. And now you actually have this personal connection to these people that you have been trying to establish for the last 15 years, but couldn't find a way in. And now you just like farted your way in. So there you go, sister.
Well,
what else do you do? Do I never show my face in that firm again because of that?
Right.
No.
Right. Right. Well, those kinds of moments, I mean, as horrifying as they must be for all of us when they happen and awkward, it is about what you do with it and how you move through it, because in a sense, like you say, we are all human, and actually being honest about our humanity and the fact that, you know what, this is a thing. Well, now I have a better understanding of you because and see you more as a human, and you have a better one of me,
right.
and we're actually better connected than we would have been otherwise. Instead of kind of the false belief that it's best to hide this,
right?
And nobody else must be going through this. It's akin, and I've talked about this a lot on the show, to how people look at Instagram, especially younger people, but people look at Instagram and start to compare their insides to somebody else's curated version of themselves outside.
Absolutely.
So, that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes for them. Of course, you could ask, but people aren't showing that. People don't present that on the outside.
Right. Yeah.
And Lord knows how many takes it took them to get that photo.
Absolutely.
It's not like they have a photographer following them around every single day of their life, and that photographer then just took one photo.
Yeah.
100 before they got that perfect, wistful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's been my biggest challenge in terms of, in this day and age, you sort of have to be on the social media.
Sure.
I mean, you don't have to, but you kind of have to. And I just if I would never post anything.
Right.
And for a long time I didn't, because as said, I just could never get it perfect. I couldn't quite lip sync to the reels. I couldn't, I'm a natural kind of gal. Like, I can't be bothered. I don't have a blow dryer. Like, if mascara is about the max that I'll do. And, sure, I probably it'd make a world of difference if I did more, but I just can't be bothered.
Right. Well, and of course, the other thing is, I personally, I'm not a photo taker. We're not the staged photo family. We're not. Yeah. It doesn't occur to me. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And stopping to go, okay, hold up all the fun. Let me get this perfect photo of myself.
Right.
Is not just not in my vocabulary.
Right.
Perhaps to my detriment for promoting on certain social media. That's a good one.
Certain medias.
Certain medias.
But so I don't, my coach, she says, don't get it perfect, just get it going. And so finally I just was like, I'm just going to get it going, and I'm just going to act a fool on there, because, the truth is, that's who my personality is. And so if you meet me in real life, then you're going to see that I am kind of clumsy. I make stupid dad jokes all the time. I can turn almost anything into a sexual innuendo. It's just, and so I want to portray myself, particularly on social media for my business, as who I am as a person, so that when we finally interact, you're not shocked, you're not surprised. You're not like, oh, I thought I was getting Sister Mary Catherine, when actually, I'm getting Chelsea Handler over here, so I that's a bit of that. And then also too, I want to sort of walk the talk, right?
Right.
There's no way to get life perfect. We all make mistakes. It's all messy. And actually, I think the messiness is really where the magic is. It's where the fun is. It's where the funny is. It's where our humanity is. And it's where we connect. And I have been fortunate in my life to be surrounded with people that sort of have that ethos. Not all of them, but most of them. So I've had some really great examples. And I would say, if you're one of these people out there that is feeling like, well, that's all great, but I don't have that within me. I don't have the people around me, or my circumstance is extra hard. I would say, I'm going to call a little BS on that. And call me or call another coach. Look outside of your immediate circle and just get curious about a different perspective with someone who is not in the ring with you. Yeah. Might be able to see and open you up. It's kind of just all about curiosity. I think taking it all the way back to Mormonism, how I was raised, they believe that we're going to die and go to heaven and live on eternally. Right. I don't believe that. I don't know what happens after this. This could be my 500th life. It could be my one and only. I might go on and do other things. I might not. What I know is that this is happening right now, and I'm going to squeeze every last bit of juice out of it I can.
Yeah, for sure.
F it. We all make mistakes. Like, don't get it perfect. Just get it going. Start living your life. My grandmother passed away about 2 years ago at 93. And I remember looking at her and thinking, I do want to get to your age, but I don't want to get to your age and be sitting here with my head full of what ifs.
Yeah. I had a guest not that long ago who said that in his experience, the people who struggle most with dying a terminal cancer diagnosis, those kinds of things, are the people who didn't live their lives, who left a lot of things undone, who go just begging, pleading for one more year.
Well, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in January of 2017, just 1 month before my 41st birthday. And I said to the doctors, am I going to die? And they said, well, we're going to do everything we can to not let that happen. And I remember in those early days saying to like my son and my dad and my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, like 41 years, that's all I got. I remember thinking 40 was freaking old. And now I'm at 41 and I'm like, I had so much more I wanted to do. And up until that point, I never really felt like I was wasting my life, but there were dreams, big dreams that I wanted to do that I just wasn't doing. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm not done. So I'm going to fight this disease like hell. But I also have lost a grandfather to colon cancer. And so I'm going to live every single day like it's my last and soak up every last minute with the people in my life that I love.
Yes.
Right. And so then in July, I have this surgery that they tell me, we really don't know if you're going to survive. So get your affairs in order. So my 23-year-old son and I write my will, my health directive. Here's the money. Here's the mortgage. Here's the passwords. Here's all the things. And then, I wrote a letter to all of my girlfriends telling them who they were to me in my life and how much I loved them. My second ex-husband, I met with him and thanked him for who he was in my life and told him, I'm sorry for the pain and hurt that I caused you. Like, I cleaned up my side of the street. Because if I was going to die, I wanted the people that meant the most to me in my life to know what they meant to me.
Yeah.
Before I went. Thankfully, I survived. Obviously, I'm sitting here. But to that point, I'm in a cancer survivor or cancer warriors group on Facebook. And there are so many messages that come across like, oh, I have a CT scan tomorrow, or I have XYZ test, or I have this, I'm waiting for these results. Should I be worried? And kind of my response in there is always like, well, what does worrying serve you? What does that do other than waste your time? Because the outcome's going to be what it's going to be. But if you're worrying about what the future will hold, which you have no control over, then you're missing your life that's happening right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, I go back to a saying that a friend of mine said, and I don't know whether it's hers or she got it from somebody else, but if you keep one leg in yesterday and one leg in tomorrow, the only thing you can do is crap all over today.
Amen.
And that's the truth.
It's totally the truth.
Yeah. I wish that people could do more to let other people know how much they mean to them on a regular basis. Yeah. Because I think if you did know, you'd, in a sense, not get a big head and feel great about yourself all the time, but you'd realize how much you also matter and that you're important and worthy of love and worthy of all those things in those moments when you kind of feel like you aren't. You'd have something to reflect on. Totally.
I mean, I might get emotional, but what you just said is reminding me of my son's father, because 1 month after that surgery where they told me I might not survive, my son's father took his own life.
Oh, God.
And I remember sitting at the funeral, and it was standing room only. And I said to my dad, I was sitting next to my dad, and, he was just holding on to me because a month ago, he thought this was where he was going to be with me. Right. Right. And I said to my dad, I am absolutely heartbroken that he didn't see that this was here for him, that this standing room only was here to support him, loved him, that he either didn't know or didn't believe or a combination. Yeah. And that was heartbreaking. So I make it a point to tell the people in my life all the time what they mean to me.
And make sure that they hear it. And that's a hard one. Yeah. So we're coming kind of to the end here, but I want to cover just a few things that I ask kind of everybody.
Okay.
For you, what do you think the biggest fallacy is in your industry that a lot of other, say, coaches or even clients buy into, but that turns out to be total BS?
Oh, I think the biggest thing that I get asked, oh, you're a coach, so you tell people how to live their life. Mm-hmm. And no, I don't tell people how to live their life. What I do is I ask questions that help people get curious about their life so that they can live the best life that they want to live. Right. My tagline is, I help you achieve your big, audacious goals. If your big, audacious goal is to not have a pile of laundry at the end of the week and not be screaming at your kids all day long, fan-freaking-tastic. Let's do it. If you want to start a nonprofit, let's do that too, right? Like anything in between. What's going to make your life a little bit easier? So it's that it's your life to live, and me, and no one else can tell you how to live it.
Right.
I just ask questions.
Right. I don't know what's right for you.
Yeah.
But if you have an idea, I can help figure out how we're going to get there. Right.
And we can test different ideas because you might not even know. I mean, I've tried things and been like, that wasn't the best plan. Okay, well, let's try something else,
Let's redirect.
Yeah.
Well, conversely, what would you say the most underrated concept is? What do you think a lot of people overlook and don't pay attention to, but should?
I think people overlook the power of assistance in their life. I can do it myself. I don't want to appear weak. I don't want people to see my flaws. I want to present my perfectly curated outer, and I don't want anyone to see like the ugly, messy bits inside. Mm-hmm. And I think not showing your humanity, not asking for assistance, not reaching out and tapping into this great network of humanity that we have around us you do yourself a disservice.
Yeah. So, Karey, thank you so much for joining me. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Until next time, I'm Andrew Wallace, and we don't have a problem. We've got an opportunity.
Amen. Thank you, Andrew. It was really fun.
Thank you. If you want to know more about Karey, you can find her at kareyoncoaching.com or on Instagram at Karey Spranzi. Both links are in the description.